Hi, I'm going to do a quick demo of query-based views, a module that builds feeds of content similar to views, but the main difference is that it starts with a query. Whereas in views, you create the query by setting up a bunch of configuration. In Q-Views, the shortened word for query-based views, you start with the query and then build out the feed from there. So let me just show you a couple of examples real quick here. First, I'm going to install the module. After installation, two different areas are added to the site. There's Q-Views under Site Building, where you manage, add, remove, delete different views, Q-Views. And then under Content Management, there's an area called Content Browser. And what Q-Views does is it installs a few default Q-Views for you to sort of use. And these are handy because Q-Views is by default very Ajax-y. So as you're managing and browsing content, users, comments, that kind of thing, this can be useful. So for example, I'm taking a look at the content, and I'm just paginating through here the different pages. It's all Ajax-y, so real quick loads. If I want to narrow it down by some element, I can select content type. Let's narrow it down a little bit more to a certain type of title. And then this generic search box is by configuration. If you set some of the columns to be searchable, then it'll search all the columns when you enter something into there. So no results for that. Anyways, some different options here. There's Ajax-y style checkboxes, so if we want to unpublish a few nodes, we can do that. Now if I refresh the page, you'll see that it sticks. I can delete a node as well. So if I want to delete that, that's all via Ajax. You get a little JavaScript confirmation dialog that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? But it deletes it. Users are the same way. You can browse through using pagination or search for search for a particular username or user ID. So if we want to do user 13, we can load that up, no problem. We can also delete a user here the same way we deleted a node. Same goes for comments, even though I don't have any loaded right now. So this is just kind of an example of what a Q view might look like, and this is a table style view. In addition to searching, there's sorting, Ajax style sorting as well. So we can sort by, whatever elements, whatever columns we decide we want to be able to search by. And as you can see, there's some specialized columns where you can specify exactly what you want to do in that column. So it gives you, in the configuration, it gives you all the row information for that table row, and you can construct a column based on that. So we got an edit user column, we got a mail column as well. So that's a quick demo of what it looks like. What a resulting Q view might look like. So let's go ahead and take a look at the configuration for one of them. Okay, let's take a look at the nodes one. Modules can provide default Q views to the Q views, which can then be modified by users, just kind of like views. And then they can be sort of rolled back if the user makes some change that's not, kind of breaks it or whatever. So here's a configuration screen. As you can see, it starts with a query. So you enter the query here. Modules can provide some default queries as well, just to get you started with a query if you're not used to query building. And what this one does is it searches nodes and it connects them with the user table as well. There's a lot of different options available, and there's just kind of a menu here, so you can jump between different areas of the configuration. Just click menu to go back to the menu. but I'll just go ahead and scroll down here. There's some basic options here for if you want to do non-Ajax pagination, like on a blog page where you want each page to be indexed. You might want to click that. You can select the rows, scroll to the top on reload. If once you go to the next page or something, it'll bump you up to the top so that you're starting at the top of the page. There's lots of options. I guess I can go through a few of them here, a few more, but the meat of it is down here under the table options, which is what we want to take a look at. So let's go ahead and jump here. When you provide a query to Q-Views up here, what happens when you start out is then you click a button to load the query and to load sort of an example column, and when you or an example row. And when it does that, it'll automatically sense what all of the columns are in that row, and it'll create options for each one of them. So as you can see under the table options here, for each column we've got a label, a weight, which is how far left or right it will display in a table, how to order the query, and then some options on, do you want this to display? And that really only makes sense for a table type view. In a grid view, you would build out your own sort of theming function to display it. Is it searchable? And if it is searchable, then it'll, that one single search box will search through whatever gets checked here. And then is it sortable? And if the column is sortable, it'll add ascending, descending arrows so that you can sort by that column. And then there's a callback function, and then this will format the content in a particular way. So modules can expose some specially formatted functions to Q-Views. So we have some ones here already built into Q-Views that's useful, like timestamp to time. If we use that, then you can select a type of format, a PHP style format to convert it to. Every time you select a function here, there's also some help to sort of get you familiar with what it does and how to use it. Format interval, which is like changing a timestamp to like 2 days ago or 4 weeks ago or something. Node link, which is converting a node to a link. And then there's a few Ajax-y style boxes, like a checkbox, select box, and text select. So for example, if we enable the text select here, there's some instructions here on what to pass to the function. And then you replace these values here with what's listed here. And if you're starting out with a query, then you'll be familiar with what these terms mean. So for example, an input ID, kind of a default ID for this this box, so that it doesn't conflict with other IDs on the page. What the table is, the column to change. So in this case, it would be the NID. Of course, we don't want to change the node ID, but for example, we could offer this for the title column, and that would make sense. The primary column, so that would be the node ID, the user ID, or something like this. So this can be used on any column, these callback functions. Also, you can run Q-Views custom, which will allow you to put any PHP code in here. So if we wanted this NID to be a link, or to pop up some jQuery thingy, we can go ahead and put that code in here, no problem. If you want to reuse it, of course what you do is pull that code into a function in a module, and then expose that to Q-Views, or you can just type in a function here, and it'll run it just fine. So as you can see, we have some different options here for different columns, and then we can also create custom columns, and these will the row for all of the row variables will be passed to these columns, and you can just create a custom title, weight, and then process the code in some particular way. And you can add as many of these columns as you'd like. So whenever you just automatically adds new ones there. There's also some default columns that you can add. So this one shows the node edit and node delete column. because it's a node content content feed. And but we could also show the user edit and user delete columns as well. There are also some exposed filters, so this will allow you to select a particular column, a type of comparison, and what sort of input type it should look like. So should it be text? Should it be a select? Should it be a date or a checkbox? So we have some different options there. And then there's all kinds of, you can theme the entire feed or different areas of the feed. So these overall theming functions, you can set a function name if you're going to use an external, module or something in the theme template.php file to theme the whole, to theme the feed. Or you can set up your own custom theming right there in PHP, and it gives you the different options that are available to the feed. So for example, if you want to make a really slick feed of users, and you want the next and previous buttons to look a particular type of way, and you want to eliminate the pages in the middle, you can go ahead and do that by just creating this custom theme. You can also hide the headers, the table headers, if you want something that doesn't look quite as much like a report. Lots of different other options here for theming, the loading animation, the loading graphic. And then you can also take a feed and create a URL based off of it. So if you're like the content browser, for example, which is that set of 3 Q-views, the node browser, user browser, and comment browser, those all expose a URL. Or they could. I guess they're not quite set up that way in the configuration, but you can set up a URL for those feeds so that they, if you go to a URL, then the whole page contains that feed. You can also set up blocks as well, and you can set up multiple blocks too. One of a powerful use of Q-views is providing arguments to a view. So, say for example, we want all of this, but we want to add and type equals a particular type. So in this case, when we call the view, we would pass it an argument if we were going to call the view programmatically, and that's just through the Q-Views function. You'd use Q-Views, and then the first argument would be the ID of the Q-View, which is visible in the Q-View browser. And then the next ones would be any arguments you'd pass to it, just like a DB query. So, for example, we could create a block and pass a particular content type to it in some areas, but a different one in other areas. And I'll go ahead and show you some examples here in just a moment. You can also import and export Q-views. So if you've got a Q-view that you use on one site, you can export it, import it. Again, a lot of this functionality sort of mirrors what Views does. It's not nearly as evolved, but it provides some tools that aren't available in Views. And again, the basic idea is that you start with the query. And unfortunately with Views, that's just, well, not unfortunately, but with Views, it's just a different paradigm altogether. So this is kind of the other path. Okay, I think I'll go ahead and stop there and do a quick demo of creating a Q-view and maybe inserting it as a block. Okay, there are 2 ways you can add a block with a Q-view in it. So the first is by through the configuration. So let me just show you how this works. Let's go ahead and create a simple query. Select all from node where type is story. We need to create an ID here, so let's call it test block. And then here at the let's select a a column to display, we'll just make this really simple and display and add a search box for the title. And then here at the bottom are the block configuration, so we can specify how many blocks to provide. So if we want a couple different blocks, we can do that. If we, in this case, we just want one, and we can set a block name, but by default it'll just be named with the Q-Views feed. So let's go ahead and save this. And let's hit up the blocks page. So now we have a Q-Views feed test block down here. Looks like we got another one I added earlier. We'll add it to the right sidebar. There we go. Now we've got a block on the side. It's a fully functional Q-View. So it's got Ajax, pagination, search, the whole bit. Excuse me, the whole bit. So that's one way to add it. But say we need to do something a little bit more complex, like we want to grab an argument from the URL to specify what we want to show in that block. And that's not too bad to do. Let's go ahead and show you how that works. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make this a variable, so we can specify which type we want the block to show. And we need to save the query changes. Okay. Now we need to remember that the ID of this block so we can embed it. So it's the block is ID 9. Let's go ahead and add in a new block. So we'll need to do some PHP here to embed it. We're going to use the Q-Views function. We're going to specify the ID, and then we can pass any arguments to it in here. So like for example, if I did this, it will display the same thing on the right hand side. Let me just go ahead and show you how that would work. And let's add it to the right sidebar. Let's see. Oh yeah, we need to print this out. Okay. Alright, so now we've got the same looking feed here on the side. But if we wanted to do something like build blocks, story, and have the right variable be passed to it, then we can do that. Let's see, that would be which argument is that? 0, 1, 2, 3. So it'd be the third argument that we want to grab. So there's a Drupal function called arg, which allows you to grab an argument from the URL. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay. So now it's showing nothing because we have nothing being passed in that as a variable, but if I add story to the URL, now we've got the stories. And if we want to look at pages, we can see the pages instead. So pretty easy to do customized blocks depending on what page you're on. And that's it.